Hello everyone, I am Tessellating Hexagons, and at least as of the time of recording this, yesterday 3 songs were chosen for Eurovision 2021. I always have to catch myself because I'm so afraid of just saying Eurovision 2020 and leaving it at that. No Tess, it's 2021. I don't know if this video is going to go up on time. Maybe it'll be tomorrow, so the song will have been chosen 2 days ago. I don't know, let's not ramble. Spain. We're talking about Spain. There were 3 songs chosen yesterday, and Spain was the third of them, in a national final that consisted of 2 songs, both by the same artist. We'd known them for a while, we'd known the artist for even longer. It is, just like last year, Mr. Blas Cantó Moreno, or just Blas Cantó, former member of the boy band Aurin. I still haven't nailed down how to pronounce that. Also famous for being in Spain's national final for Junior Eurovision 2004. Fun little fact that the national final this year apparently made abundantly clear. And the song this time is called Voy a Quedarme, which means I'm going to stay. The whole song is presented in Castilian Spanish, and yeah, not really anything to add there. Music and lyrics by Blas himself, alongside Dan Hammond, Leroy Sanchez, and D'Angelo Ortega. Can I just take this moment to say, as a non-native Spanish speaker, I appreciate the layers to the title of this song, because in Spanish, you can say, I am going to do something in the same way that you can in English, and that's what the title does here, and like it's literally the same. So, voy a quedarme means I am going to stay, and like, I don't know if that's an intentional play on words, but I don't know, I appreciate it. But enough rambling, let's just get on with the review. Tess, you spoon! Right then, I must confess, I hadn't heard much good said about Spain's selection process this year, which is strange because, well, we'll get to why it's good later on, but apparently the show went on for far too long, considering there were only 2 songs competing in it, and when all was said and done, it wound up being the least viewed Spanish national final since 2009. That's a huge yikes from me. From one unfortunate Eurovision country to another, Spain, lo siento, conozco tu dolor. But enough about that. How's the actual song that they chose? Because that's what this video is meant to be about. I thought it was rather pleasant, but I can readily see this one being damned by faint praise, even more so than last year. Last year already suffered from being aggressively overlooked by the fandom, and frankly, y'all were seriously missing out. Universo was a great song, and you should go back and give it a second chance. But I fear that this delicate, emotional ballad will wind up going much the same way in a hurry. Which is also a shame, because Blas deserves so much better from us. Allow me to explain why. Well, first things first, let's look at the vibes of the song as a whole. Why yes, I did just look at Blas Cantó and just immediately say, vibe check! But seriously, this is a very sweet, lovely, charming song if you take the time to listen to it. The lyrics are adorable and nice and fluffy, and it all comes across flawlessly for the entirety of the runtime. But, crucially, in doing that, it doesn't come across as being overly saccharine to the point of seeming insincere, which songs have suffered from in the past. Taking that idea one step further, I have to praise Blas once again for his capacity for delivering live vocals. Consider his performance during the song selection show. He didn't hit a single bad note, while delivering the song in a way that embodied confidence and charisma, and above all else, I dare say, plausibility. This is another song where one of its strengths is how believable the performance is, how easy it is for me to watch the performance and think, yes, Blas really is singing to someone that he really does love about his really real relationship with this really real person. That sounds like I'm protesting too much, but no, it sounds very authentic. And that's not easy to do. Also, to be a little bit more technical and a bit less emotional, can I just reiterate the technical qualities of his singing as well here? This was hardly a surprise after last year's song, but yes, Blas's singing voice is one that shows years of talent and proficiency, both in terms of hitting all the right notes, of course, but also in making excellent use of head voice and falsetto, which the song gives him plenty of room to flex, I dare say more so than this previous entry. What makes it particularly admirable, though, is that while he does take advantage of those opportunities as they arise, it never feels overdone. It never feels like a Whitney Houston tribute act kind of, vocal gymnastics where wandering away from the note is prioritized over, actually sounding good. So, great show there, very well done. And finally, I've said plenty about the vocal line, but it's worth our while to acknowledge the music itself as well. No matter where you land when it comes to determining if you feel a song to be interesting or not so interesting, I feel as though the musical arrangement itself never stands still, for want of a better sequence of words. There are points where it could lapse into bland nothingness, or end up in a little loop of circling the airport in a bland sort of way, or worse, hit the emergency key change button. But it never falls into those pitfalls. The whole writing team here deserves fair credit for a job very well done in that department. Having said and emphasised all of that though, the general state of play internationally seems to be that most people aren't able to give the song enough continued attention to have those positive aspects pay any actual dividends. At its most extreme, I could imagine less keen viewers describing this as just a generic ballad. And in all fairness, though the lyrics are rather sweet, they do somewhat seem to pendulum back and forth between Spanish poetry and relatively basic constructions. Then again, I studied languages at college, and of course I speak Spanish as a second language, not natively, so it could just be that the academic in me is reading far too much into his choice of grammar, in which case, I apologise. The other points that I could see holding this one back primarily stem from the live performance at the song selection show. Firstly, while the backing vocals in general do provide a good extra level of texture to the overall soundscape, it did feel, during the show, like the sound mixing was, kind of way off, and it caused them to be a bit too loud, and ultimately sort of really encroaching on the lead vocal line, especially at the bridge at around the 2 minutes 10 mark. You're gonna struggle to make an emotional impact if an entire choir is shouting you down, after all. And secondly, the live performance opened with a sustained a cappella section. In itself, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but for some people, like me for instance, those of us who are prone to, admittedly overthinking and overworrying, it set off an instant, albeit, I admit, irrational, fear of how that may or may not come across on the night of the actual contest. That sort of thing, especially right at the start of the song when you have nothing to cue you in but an earpiece, is so hard to pull off, and of course, the longer the a cappella section goes on, the more chance you have to waver off melody or off rhythm, which then, when the rest of the song actually comes in, it can cause the entire performance to get off on the wrong foot and potentially never recover. I mean, look at San Marino 2015, where the audience decided to just sort of scream at Michele Pagnola, which threw off his confidence right out of the gate. Like, you could do that to yourself if you're not careful with doing an a cappella section. Chances are, I'm worrying over nothing will come of it, and they might not even do the a cappella thing in Rotterdam anyway, but that concern of mine is still very much there. You feel? Does anyone on the planet feel this, or is it literally just me? Well, in any case, with all the cards on the table, where am I at with this one? For now, I'll give it a 6 out of 10 as my personal opinion score. There's a lot about this song that I like. I like its sweetness, I like its sincerity, I like the wholesomeness of its lyrics, and how Blas gets to showcase every inch of his vocal talents, and he does have a lot of inches of vocal talent. That wasn't meant to sound suggestive. Don't take that out of context. It has something in the melody that Norway's song had last year to an extent, that I find to be rather satisfying to listen to. The problem is, while it does a lot of things very well, it doesn't really stray beyond the confines of that, so we end up with a song that's cute and lovely, but potentially extremely forgettable. I hope that the Spanish delegation winds up proving me wrong there. I've heard that they've got a new staging director, so you never know, this could be something incredible. But emotions and feelings aside, as technical scores go, as an extension of that thought, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Once again, its strong points are very strong, but they're limited in scope. Blas can certainly be proud of his voice, no one's going to take that away from him, and the composition of the song, is by no means bad. But I can see the average viewer finding it at worst boring, and at best pleasant but tepid. What agonises me is that on paper, this is a textbook example of a quality composition, and as a consequence, I really don't know what to suggest as a means of fixing it to make it more appealing to the general public, or to improve its scores here, or any of that. I don't know what to say. I won't deny there is plenty of good in this song, but the tricky part is convincing people to stay invested for long enough that they actually hear any of it. But putting the song aside for a second, and looking at how this is as a response to last year being cancelled, at the very least I have to give Spain a pass on their reaction to last year's cancellation. On paper, at least, RTVE went over and above to compensate Blas for him not being able to truly represent his country last year by once again internally selecting him, and this time letting the public in on the song selection process. In theory, that's not just making up for last year, that's improving on it too. I could be critical of how they organised the selection show itself, or the songs they ended up choosing for the public to choose between, but that really doesn't have anything to do with responding to the pandemic. This song, or the means by which it was chosen, or for whom it was chosen, it's all still morally upstanding. It was all still the right thing to do. It was all worthy of recognition. So, bravo, España, you did the right thing. But then there's the question of how this song will actually fare at the contest. As you may well already know, Spain is a member of the so-called Big Five, so this song doesn't have to compete in the semi-finals. But if it did, I would not have high expectations for this qualifying. I don't like being that kind of harsh, and it really rubs me the wrong way when people make broad sweeping statements like that so early in the season. We have 10 songs including this one. Mathematically, every single one would qualify so far because there are only 10 of them. But the thing is, there's a recurring pattern in Eurovision history. The song that ends up in last place overall is never the song that's actually the worst. It's always a good one that's just unremarkable. To be clear, I don't think this is guaranteed to come last, but I do think that Spain deserves more attention than they've thus far been getting. Still, I fear that this will probably get swallowed up in the final, in the same way that, for instance, Alfred and the Maya did in 2018. That song was adorable, I loved it, and people just forgot all about it, and that was tragic. And, as I said, I really don't know what can be done to sort of change that future. I hope, if nothing else, that the juries at least acknowledge the competence of the song and the composition, and the proficiency of Blas as a performer, because as a singer, he's incredible. But we'll have to see what happens in May. Maybe they'll turn it around, maybe the staging will be incredible, maybe the public will find it in their hearts to go, actually, this is quite a sweet ballad. But I can't see the future, unfortunately, so all I can do in the meantime is to throw over to you lovely people. Listen to the song for yourself, have your own thoughts, think for yourself. Do you agree? Do you disagree? That's all on you. In the meantime, to Blas and Team España, I wish you the very best of luck. You deserve so much more recognition than you've been getting so far, but I don't know what else to tell you other than, well, good luck and see you in May.